The top fuel ranks felt the presence of the Budweiser King for the first time at the second race of the 1991 season, as Kenny Bernstein earned his first ever top fuel win. An impressive string of four second runs in elimination sealed the next win. Kenny was beginning to look dangerous. But defending Winston champ Joe Amato got in the way at Gainesville. Kenny and company were ousted in the final four as Amato went on to take the event win. With $25,000 on the line 1 week ago, Kenny figured to be a major player. But in round one against Laurie Johns, a big red light ended his day prematurely. But today, in round one, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news, a hot 497 ET after qualifying third at 496. The bad news, kicked out the connecting rods, ruining the block, forcing Dale Armstrong and crew to make an engine change to confront the quickest field in top fuel history. The National Hot Rod Association presents Championship Drag Racing on ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 290 miles per hour and traveling the quarter mile in less than 5 seconds. Championship Drag Racing from NHRA. Each year, a coast-to-coast confrontation known as the Winston Drag Racing Series crisscrosses the USA and Canada. Today, that series makes its fifth stop just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to our coverage of the 11th annual AC-Delco Southern Nationals here at Atlanta Dragway. Now, this big crowd behind Kenny Bernstein's pit, they're going to have to move here in just a second because Kenny will be ready for round number 2. And this is the toughest field he's ever faced, the toughest field in history, with 7 cars qualifying in the fours, topped by Joe Amato's smashing 4.89-second blast. Now, the big story in Pro Stock, of course, is the Dodge and Darrell Alderman. As successful as that car has been, he's got one little pain in the neck. Big Daddy Don Garlitz tells us about it.
Well, Steve, these two blue Pro Stocks are the only 2 cars in the class that have given Darrell Alderman any challenge so far this year. And you saw this car, driven by Warren Johnson, win the Gator Nationals. Now, it looks like today they could very well challenge Darrell again. Warren is here with me, and I'd like to ask you, Warren, what kind of a strategy do you have? You're running good, but you need just a little bit more.
Well, we're just going to have to read the tapes off this run, see what area we can improve on. And, you know, these cars are just like any other race car. There's just not one area that you can work on. You know, the engine isn't the only thing that gets this thing down the racetrack. We've got clutch, gearing, suspension. We're going to look at the whole thing and see what we can come up with.
Can you overdo it like in Top Fuel? You know, they can spin the tires. They can actually give them too much. Can you do that in Pro Stock?
What happens in Pro Stock is you just go out violently shake the tire if you got too much clutch in the thing. And so it's one of those fine lines between a perfect run and a disaster.
Thank you very much, Warren. Good luck. Let's go up to the starting line for the second round of Top Fuel.
Thank you, Big Daddy. And we've got this man, Joe Amato, who won the last NHRA national event, the Gator Nationals, up against Gene Snow of Fort Worth, Texas. Now, Amato has a chance to make a bonus 200 points here at the Southern Nationals. He set the national record at 4.892. NHRA rules require that he back it up within 1%, babe.
Well, Steve, if Amato can run between a 4.843 and a 4.940, he can reset the national record. He currently holds that record at 4.897.
Amato, like yourself, a 3-time NHRA Top Fuel champion, a businessman from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, up against one of the original drag racers, Gene Snow from Fort Worth, Texas. Gene has seen the national event winner's circle as well. Amato will be in the far lane, and that has been the favored lane for the drivers that have lane choice, Don.
Well, Steve, Amato cannot cut Gene Snow any slack because he is very capable of running just as quick as Amato has run. Of course, he can go up in smoke too, but Gene is totally unpredictable.
Absolutely, always has been. He's a real kind of a tinker. He'll try things no matter how well he's running to try to run better. Amato and Snow. Amato, what a shock! Amato leaves too soon. Snow goes into a big wheel stand. It would have been Amato's race had he just seen green.
And Steve, he should have finished the run because NHRA would allow that run to be the backup for the record run that he previously set. I'll tell you, there'll be some discussion in the pits over that one.
Well, his crew chief, Tim Richards, will not be pleased. The same scenario happened 2 years ago. Amato failed to back up a record on a red light. It ultimately cost him the championship to Gary Ormsby. The 1991 NHRA AC-Delco Southern Nationals is being brought to you by AC-Delco Automotive Parts. AC-Delco, it's like buying time. By Goodyear, the unanimous choice of all professional NHRA world champions from Top Fuel to Pro Stock Motorcycle. And by Budweiser, the king of beers with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. And back in the Pro Stock pits, Jerry Ekman's car owner Bill Orndorff ponders what to do to that Pontiac to face Scott Jeffrey on in Warren Johnson's Oldsmobile coming up a little later on. Stay with us. We'll be back to the Southern Nationals near Atlanta, Georgia.
Howick in the next round. Meanwhile, let's go to Steve. He's with Joe Amato.
Well, Joe, there's really no way to sugarcoat it. That's a disaster for you.
What can I say, Steve? You know, driver error, you know. The worst part is I shut it off. I might have been able to back the record up, but the minute I saw the red light, you know, my mind went blank. You just, you know, you get so mad at yourself for making a mistake, and then Snow does a big wheel stand. Yeah. It's, you know.
Well, that is the other bad part is now you're out of competition and can't back that record up. You're going to have to reset it another day.
Well, we'll have to try some other day, you know. I just, coming into this race this morning, I just didn't, like, even the first round, I had, like, pretty bad light. I just, all day I've been, like, jittery, you know, just, didn't sleep good, and just one of them deals, you know, you kind of talk yourself into them kind of things.
Well, when you cut as good a light as you have been lately, it's maybe bound to happen.
It's, you know, but it shouldn't. A professional driver should be able to do his job.
You know, I disagree with that. Anyone that cuts lights as close as they're cutting them today has got to get a red light once in a while.
Yeah, if you don't, maybe you're just not pushing it hard enough. Here's a guy that pushes everything to the limit and always has. Pat Dakin. And he's up against Kenny Bernstein, as we said at the top of the show, the NHRA Winston points leader in the Top Fuel division. In round number 1, Pat Dakin defeated a tire-smoking Frank Hawley and Darrell Gwynn's Coors Silver Bullet, while Kenny Bernstein was posting that great 4.97-second run as he defeated Dick LaHaye. There might be a question mark as far as the engine is concerned in the Budweiser King, but when Dale Armstrong's involved on, I don't think there is.
I think the biggest problem that Bernstein faces, just like Amato, anyone that's running as good as they're running and have the reaction times they've got, everybody takes their best shot every time they go to the line with you.
That's right, and you know Kenny Bernstein is still smiling from seeing Joe Amato exit early. Patty Dakin with a bit of a hole shot. Oh, ho, ho. Dale Armstrong, you might have gone to the line almost too conservatively. Bernstein wins it at 5:05 to a 5:09, and Kenny backed off a bit on his reaction time. I think after seeing a Amato red light, he too was conservative, and it almost bit him.
You bet, because Pat Dakin was not being conservative. Look at the wheels up on that car. He was giving it everything it had. He got a very decisive starting line advantage, but Kenny Bernstein begins to make it up. Dale Armstrong had set the engine a little soft for that first run, but Kenny did pull it out of the bag.
Well, Kenny, even more than your own victory here with a 5:05, you liked what you saw in front of you with Amato.
Well, yeah, I feel bad for Joe in red light, and I did.
How that feels?
I did it last week, and it's a miserable way to do it. But, you know, this game's tough out here to win that Winston championship. We'll take them any way we can, but believe me, Amato and those boys, it's a long way from over.
Oh, absolutely. See you next round.
Thank you, Steve.
Kenny may be feeling bad for Amato today, but if the points are as close as they were last year, he won't be feeling bad at the finals.
Oh, yeah, and he was absolutely sure Amato was going to back up that record with the bonus 200, so he really dodged a bullet there. All right, we got a couple of great ones here in quite a contrast. Corey Mclanathan from Southern California, the blue car in the far lane. His rookie season in Top Fuel, served his apprenticeship in the top alcohol dragster rank. They're not nearly as quick and fast. They just don't kick you in the butt quite like these cars do. Huge crowd looking on, and a lot of them rooting for the man in the yellow car. 53-year-old Eddie Hill, the first driver ever into the fours, and he did it in this very car. He's had about a half a dozen cars since, but keeps going back to Old Yeller.
Well, this is definitely Hill's 4-second car, and he's run some 4-second runs at this race.
Corey Mclanathan in Anaheim, California, is driving a car that he bought from Darrell Gwynn. This was a car that held the record previous to Amato at 490. Now, earlier today in round number 1, he met the 1989 Winston champion, Gary Ormsby from Roseville, California. And this was one of the toughest matchups Mclanathan has had in his still young Top Fuel career. His pretty sister, Colleen, had a big kiss for Buster Couch, maybe looking for a good light. Hey, whatever makes it work, you know? Now watch the Ormsby car. All that black soot, that's clutch dust. They underestimated Corey Mclanathan. They didn't think they'd need to run as quick as a 5:04, and that's what Corey laid on him. So now it's Corey Mclanathan advancing into round number 2, where he faces off with the yellow car of Eddie Hill. And there is Buzzy Carter, one of the most amusing crew chiefs you'll find in the pits.
And you won't find Buzzy Carter giving Buster Couch a kiss either.
No. If anything, if Buzzy didn't like the light, he'd just bite his ear off.
Well, there's Colleen. She's not going over there to give Buster a kiss, just going to blow him one this time.
Okay, Corey Mclanathan, he beat Gary Ormsby. He's still got to be pumped up about that. He's got to calm down now and just take these cars one at a time. Sounds easy, but it isn't.
Oh, each one of these confrontations is a major, major deal.
Oh, and Corey Mclanathan, excellent reaction time. A huge hole shot by Corey Mclanathan. He has won it with a slower elapsed time. A 5:03 at 280 beats Eddie Hill's 5 seconds flat at 277. Eddie and Buzzy guessed perfectly on the power, just not on Eddie's lead.
Well, I tell you, that Corey was wired to that tree, wasn't he? Look at that car move and take that starting line advantage. Eddie Hill ran good, a 5-second flat, but I'll tell you, it's hard to win a race when your competitor runs a 483 reaction time. A 4:00 is perfect, and Hill only had a 5:73. He didn't have a chance.
Today is the day that Corey Mack has arrived as a top fuel driver. First it's Gary Ormsby, now it's Eddie Hill, and you whole shot at Eddie Hill to beat him.
Did I really? Oh, man. I don't even know what to say, you know. I mean, the start of this year was up and down. We went around here, too, here and there. And the MaxTac team, Quaker State, everybody helping us, my parents. I just want to thank everybody.
Tell me about the wind. It looked right at the finish line. It really got a hold of you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit squirty down the other end, but all we got to do is put a little wing in it and go to the next round.
Confidence starting to build in that young man from California. Tower Press Complex. Absolutely gorgeous racing facility, and we have got 2 of the best top fuel dragsters in the sport to round out round number 2. Don the Snake Prudhomme, celebrating his silver anniversary in drag racing, 25 years of competition, and he is up against Frank Bradley. Bradley, who won the opening race of the season, the Winter Nationals out in Pomona, California. He is from Northern California. Bradley talked about packing it in, but winning at Pomona, that was just enough to keep him going one more season at least. Don Prudhomme, Granada Hills, California. Well, Prudhomme qualified number 2 at a fine 495 and defeated Pomona, California's Bobby Baldwin in round number 1.
Prudhomme running very well, and so is Bradley. This should be a very good race, Steve.
Oh, indeed, but Prudhomme is away first and out-muscles Bradley to the finish line. 498, solid run. 280 miles per hour. Bradley, a nice 5:04, not quite enough to 275 miles per hour. The Snake's engine pumping out a little smoke. They may have some work to do there. So the final 4 will look like this. It'll be Kenny Bernstein versus Don Prudhomme. The first time the 2 have ever raced side-by-side in top fuel. Prudhomme has the lane choice with that 498. The other half will find the rookie with a hot hand from California, Corey Mclanathan. He'll be up against Gene Snow, and Mclanathan will have the lane choice.
Meanwhile, in Gator Nationals champion Mark Oswald's pit, work continues. Bill Schultz has got to find some performance. They're up against John Force in the final 4 in funny car. John Force qualified number 1, and he's been really running strong today, low 530s. Meanwhile, Don Prudhomme's car is showing some signs of hard run. Steve is with him right now.
Give you some idea how hot these tires get. Don Prudhomme is stopped in a puddle of water, and you can see the steam coming off of the tires. But Snake is going to be awfully proud of those tires and his whole combination. A 498 gives you lane choice over Kenny Bernstein.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to need it. You know, he's running awfully good, but this Gold Bandit car here seems to really have it together today, you know.
You seem to have your rear wing balanced just about right. Your car's not spooky in the lights like some of the others.
Well, we got some side deflectors on this car that helps, keeps a little air out from underneath the tires, and I think it plants a little bit better.
Good job.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, the wind is starting to kick up here today, and that further complicates the tuning of these cars and keeping them stable on the top end.
All right, let's switch gears literally into pro stock. The factory hot rods, this will be round number 2. These cars develop about 1,000 horsepower, weigh 2,350 pounds. NHRA says the engine can be no bigger than 500 cubic inches. They're not allowed sophisticated fuel systems. They have to use a couple of giant 4-barrel carburetors. The fans love them, and I love them. You're looking at Scott Jeffreyon in the Warren Johnson team car. He actually has out-qualified the boss. Jeffreyon from Huntington Beach, California, number 2 at 7:26, beat Don Beverly in round number 1. Now he's up against a real tough customer. Little Jerry Ekman, Ventura, California. He defeated Butch Leal from Ohio in round number 1. So they both bring good credentials here into this second round of competition in pro stock.
Well, Jeffreyon's been having a good year since he teamed up with Warren Johnson.
That's right, and it's a race-by-race deal, so Jeffreyon wants to show his best side every time he goes to the line to keep this thing going. Staged is Ekman, finally staged is Jeffreyon, and Jeffreyon breaks right on the starting line. Jerry Ekman will go to the final 4 at a 7:36, 186 miles per hour. What a heartbreaker for Scott Jeffreyon and the whole team. Warren Johnson and his boys starting to like this 2-car combo.
Well, Jerry Ekman was certainly ready for Jeffreyon, Steve. He had a 4:31 reaction time, very close to that perfect 400.
You know, as they're pushing Jeffreyon off, let's go back again and watch Gene Snow and Joe Amato. You remember Amato in the far lane red lighted. Let's watch the red car, though. All right, we've been talking about the wind blowing right up the racetrack. Well, that could be pretty scary when you get the wheels that high in the air. What can Gene Snow do to correct that problem? Well, let's go to his pit area right now and find out from Big Daddy.
Today we have a headwind, and that means the rear wing becomes very critical. These devices generate nearly 5,000 pounds of down pressure, so the crew chief has to make a decision what to do. He can take some attack out of that rear wing, but that will decrease the traction in the middle of the course. Could cause them to lose the race. You say, well, why don't they just put a little more attack in the front wing? That won't work because it's too close to the ground. They have to add weight to the front of the car. And that's what Gene Snow has done. He's put this 12-pound bar on the front of the car to prevent a top fuel blowover.
Boy, and I tell you, that hurts to have to put weight on when you spend thousands of dollars to try to keep these cars light. But when you've got to do it for safety reasons, well, there shouldn't be any hesitation, and there wasn't in the Snow camp. All right, we have got Bob Glidden, the 10-time NHRA Pro Stock champion in the Motorcraft Ford Pro. He's over in the far lane, Ford versus Chevrolet. In the near lane from Berwyn, Pennsylvania is Joe Lapone Jr. Joe's reaction times have been a little erratic lately. He needs to work on that. Bob Glidden, well, he is winless this year. Most pro stock drivers are when you consider that Darrell Alderman has won 3 and Warren Johnson 1. They're not spreading the wealth around much so far in this early part of the season, Don.
And I'll tell you, it has made that Bob Glidden just crazy. He wants to win a race.
Oh, absolutely, and he's got a good shot at it here against Joe Lapone. Oh, it's Glidden by a train length. 7:31 and 189 miles an hour, a losing 7:33. Stay with us, more pro stocks to come. This is in this second round, and this will pit a pair of Oldsmobiles against each other. Larry Morgan in the Castrol GTX machine and Warren Johnson in the AC-Delco car.
Well, Steve, it's up to Warren Johnson now. The team car, Scott Jeffreyon, is out. It's up to Warren.
Warren Johnson has one of the nicest race car shops we have ever visited, just about 30 minutes south of here in Duluth, Georgia. He sleeps in his own bed tonight. Larry Morgan, he's out of Newark, Ohio, but the car owner, Bob Panella, an avid drag racer and Ferrari collector, lives in Northern California. They are past U.S. Nationals champion. Anytime you meet up with Larry Morgan, you know you're up against one of the very best. Oldsmobile looking on. You can bet on that. Warren Johnson, 7:28. Morgan could only muster a 7:34. Top speed for the winner, 189 miles per hour. Good, solid pro stock drag race. And now, oh boy, all eyes will be on the red and white Mopar Dodge and Darrell Alderman. He will be up against a hungry Mark Powick.
And can you imagine the pressure that's on Powick? He comes into this round with a 7:38 to Alderman's 7:27. Let's go to Steve.
Well, Warren, when you saw Scott break right up the starting line, you knew that you just halved your forces.
Yeah, that's a rough break. I think he rolled a sprag on something. It's something mechanical. I don't think it was an engine or anything of that nature.
Well, your mechanics were just fine, 7:28.
Repeat of the first round. We'll just have to take it from there.
Well, Warren mentions rolling a sprag. That is a transmission failure to you guys out there that don't know what a sprag is.
All right, we're on board with Darrell Alderman. You see his right hand on top of that shift lever. He'll move that almost as fast as he can after the launch to get the car into second gear, move over to another lever for another gear change, and finally into high gear. You can bet Mark Powick inside that car talking to himself, saying, cut a light, cut a light. That's your only chance to win your first ever NHRA national event. He's been in a couple of final rounds, has not been able to pull one out. Darrell Alderman, well, right now he is Mr. Pro Stock, no question about it. He's won 3 events this year, the Dodge out of Lexington, Ohio, and the Wayne County Speed Shop in Fairfield, Illinois. So Powick will be in the near lane, Darrell Alderman in the far lane. Let's listen as the RPMs come up. Powick red light, so let's ride with Alderman. Just pummels Mark Powick, who still ran it all the way to the finish line, even though he fell started. A 7:26 to a 7:40. Boy, that Dodge just gets tougher and tougher. So that sets up the pairings for the final 4. It will be Warren Johnson in the Oldsmobile versus Darrell Alderman. Alderman will have the lane choice. Warren won't like that one bit. The second pair will find Bob Glidden happy to be to the final 4. His Ford Probe up against the Pontiac of Jerry Ekman. Glidden has the lane choice.
Very exciting Final 4, especially the Alderman-Johnson confrontation, because they're the hottest running pro stocks so far this season.
More than even the ET, what this man would like to hear is, does he have lane choice in the Final 4 over Warren Johnson? And yes, you do.
Well, good, because I saw Warren run a 7:28, and the car felt like it left good, so I'd say probably about a 7:26.
Right on the nose.
Well, it'll definitely be a good race because Warren's always on time at the tree.
Oh, he is that. He's already drilled it once this year with that reaction time.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to step up a little bit on the starting line when I come up against him the next round.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Darrell hasn't forgot his loss to Johnson at the Gator Nationals.
Including Big Daddy Don Garlits, who right now is in the top fuel pit area to give us the lowdown on the Kenny Bernstein car.
The Kenny Bernstein crew are working feverishly to get the Budweiser King ready for the next round against Don the Snake Perdome. They come into this round with a performance disadvantage. We look at the rod bearings that just came out of Kenny's engine, and we see that this bearing is very wide. It's flat, and this is what the bearing should look like. That means that Dale Armstrong cannot put any more nitro, he cannot increase his spark lead, and he cannot step up the blower. This race is going to have to be decided by the driver. It is Kenny who is going to have to take a starting line advantage. What is Kenny doing? He's resting in the lounge. He's getting himself mentally ready for this race. It's going to be interesting.
And you can bet Dale Armstrong, though, will give him just a little bit more clutch off that starting line. All right, the clutches in front of cars every bit as important, and that's where we're going right now. The final 4 of the Nitro Ground Pounders. You're looking at Jim White and Roland Leong's Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona up against a young man who just turned 21 years of age, Del Worsham from Southern California. And of course, Jim White finally broke his maiden, won his first NHRA national event, the second race of this season, the Arizona Nationals. Del Worsham has never won a race, but of course, this is only his 5th one.
Well, it's nice to see these young guys out here in the field doing good, because all the old guys can't keep doing it forever.
No, sir, and I asked Del Worsham when he started the season back at Pomona in February. I said, what's your racing experience? He said, well, I rode BMX bicycles for a couple of years. Few have ever started their career with a Nitro funny car. And in round number 2, he spoiled the comeback hopes of this guy, Al Segrini, in the brand new Petosa Brothers car. Segrini, the number 2 qualifier at 5:29. Now it's Del up against Jim White, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Jim owns a water filtration company and drives a funny car, and drove it well in round 2 when he defeated the Otter Pops car, driven by Ed McCullough, who smoked the tires. McCullough been struggling a bit. Well, let's go back to this pair at hand, okay? The Hawaiian Punch car, Jim White, far lane, near lane, unsponsored, 21-year-old Del Worsham. His father, Chuck Worsham, is the moving force behind this car. He is the crew chief. Worsham made it to the Final 4 earlier this year in Arizona when he red-lighted at this point in competition. Not today. Whoa, what an upset. White got very close to the center line. Del Worsham goes into a final round. 5:44, 2:69. White at a 5:56. May have gotten off the throttle a bit, Don Garlitz.
Well, Jim White took a definite starting line advantage. You can see it. He leaves the starting line almost a full 1/10 of a second ahead of Worsham. But the power falls off on the Hawaiian car, and Worsham begins to make up the difference in the middle of the course. And you were right, Steve. Look how close Jim White gets to the center line. It's a good possibility that he had to get off the throttle right then, and that's all that Del Worsham needed to win the race.
You know, Del, the only other time in your brief career you were in the semifinals was at Phoenix, and you red-lighted, as I remember. Was that weighing on you at all?
Oh, yeah. It's been bothering me ever since. What did we run?
5:44. He might have been in front of you a bit there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I seen him till about half track, and then he went away, and then right in the lights, he came back up, and I wasn't sure if we won or not.
First final round, gotta feel great.
Yeah, it feels unbelievable. I like to thank everybody back there that helped us. Boy, we had a thrash.
Did you really? But you got it accomplished. That's the important thing.
Well, he's happy, and so is the crew. Anybody would be. Put out a very strong car, the Hawaiian.
Well, there's the strongest car of them all so far in this, what started out as a 16-car field. John Force, the #1 qualifier, as Gucci lost in coil, hooking up that second magneto and also adjusting the barrel valve on the fuel injection, Don.
Well, you don't see that very much. Usually they just lift the body up, jerk that mag wire off, and put that car on 2 magnetos. But he made some sort of a fuel adjustment right there.
And he made a sign to John Force everything was okay. Well, it better be okay, because this is Mark Oswald in the Jeff and Susan Bernstein Racing Pontiac-bodied funny car that won the Gator Nationals, the last event on the trail. Mark Oswald, of course, formerly drove so many years for the Candies and Hughes team, lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. Mark had to hole shot this man, Tom Hoover, in the Scotch-colored film car. Hoover actually ran quicker than Oswald. No one so far has run quicker here at Atlanta than John Force, qualified #1 at a 5:22. And he put away Mike Dunn in round #1, who had a very rare red light. In fact, he wasted a 5:36 elapsed time.
We're on board with John Force, and I'll tell you, he has been running like a bracket car today. 5:31, 5:32, unbelievable. And he qualified #1 at this event.
That's right, but they backed off a little bit to make sure they didn't smoke the tires. Austin Coyle running a very smart race with the Castro GTX Oldsmobile. What a picture this is. You're about to feel 5 Gs off the starting line if you have a great imagination. Look out the window. Oswald to the right. What an upset. Where did that number come from? Low elapsed time of the entire event for funny cars. 5:21 as he stuns John Force. He runs a 5:31, probably exactly the number he wanted.
Probably not any more surprised than Oswald. That puts Del Worsham against Mark Oswald in the funny car final. Oswald has the lane choice. Meanwhile, we see Gene Snow coming to the line for the final 4. He will be facing Corey Mclanathan. Meanwhile, Steve is with Mark at the far end.
Well, Mark Oswald shocks John Force with low elapsed time of the event at 5:21.
We knew we could take a lot more. We figured it'd make a little bit better run, and we just went for it.
That doesn't surprise you at all?
No, this car's run good. You know, it's run 25 before, and, you know, we figured it could step up. It's ideal conditions.
What about the final round? Do you dare step it up anymore?
Well, I don't know if we'll need to do that. We'll take it back and look at it and see what things look like.
Boy, is he calm and cool or what?
Surely after a 5:21 low ET at a meet, he's got
adjustments. The clutch has become as important in these pro stock cars as it is in a dragster or a funny car. It wasn't always that way. Glidden will face off with Jerry Ekman. Let's go to Don Garlitz in the Warren Johnson pit.
Earlier during the opening of the show, when I spoke with Warren Johnson, he said he had a couple of tricks that he could use to step the performance up on this blue car. He had run a 7:28. Well, he came back in the next round, and he only ran 7:28 again. His competitor, Darrell Alderman, ran 7:26. He faces him in the next round. It's time for Warren Johnson to reach down into that bag of tricks and get something.
Just like every fan in the place, I am looking forward to that matchup. Well, there's Colleen Mcplanet, and she is breaking with her tradition here today. She didn't blow any kisses to bust her couch. I think if you got something working for you, Don, you stay with it, you know?
Could be a disaster.
Her brother faces off with Gene Snow, the farthest he has been in national event competition. I'm talking about Corey now from California. The Snowman, as we've said so many times, you never know what he's going to do. He had a big wheel stand against D'Amato. He put that plate on there as you described.
And I talked to him earlier. He is very concerned about spinning the wheels. He's got a lot of bottom end power in this car.
These cars have such tremendous horsepower. It's a wonder they can harness it at all. Great race. And it is Gene Snow. Should have blown Buster a kiss, kid. It is Snow with a hole shot. His 5.10 beats Corey Mclanathan's 5.08. The 53-year-old was up to the youngster.
Well, it looks to me like the old man gave the kid a driving lesson right there on the starting line. And I'll tell you what, he needed it, because 5.08 will beat a 5.10 with a nice even start. But it wasn't an even start. Gene took a starting line advantage, and even though Corey moved ahead just a little bit momentarily in the middle of the race, Gene Snow's car picked it up at the end and won the race by just a very slight margin.
Well, that was one for all of us old guys. Gene Snow, you hole-shotted the kid.
Well, I got to have a little luck. No, really, I'm lucky to be here. The first two with the things that happened, the red light by Motto and so forth, we're proud to be here. We actually ran probably fairly good that time.
Indeed, you did. He appeared to be ahead of you at one point in the racetrack.
He was. I maybe got off the line, like you said, a little bit ahead of him. He pulled back around maybe about 10 feet. I said, holy cow, my car never pulls in high gear, and all of a sudden it did hit, so it was great.
That's the kind of races we all enjoy, even the participants.
Okay, thank you.
You. Who will we race in the final?
Well, it'll either be Don Perdome or this man, Kenny Bernstein, driving the Budweiser King.
You know, they may not show it, but I think both these drivers are pumped. The first time they've ever raced in Top Fuel Dragsters side by side. Bernstein has won 2 events this year. Perdome has had the opportunity to win 2. He was in 2 final rounds, but failed to capitalize on the opportunities. He needs to get by Bernstein here to stop Bernstein from earning more Winston points and put a few in his column. Dale Armstrong walks away. He looks concerned.
Well, Perdome has the performance advantage. He comes in here with a 4-second run against Kenny.
Absolutely. They're staged and ready. This could be a classic. Identical, brilliant reaction times. Perdome appeared to have Bernstein covered, but no, something goes wrong with his car. Bernstein surges ahead, 5.03 to a losing 5.14. Perdome's speed falls up to 226 miles per hour, and that tells you that it quit early, Don.
One of the most beautiful starts in Top Fuel racing I have ever seen. These guys were wired. A .437 for both drivers, right to the thousandths of a second on reaction time. It appeared that Don Perdome was ahead at half track and possibly going for another 4-second run when the blower belt shred, allowing Kenny to take the win.
And it puts Kenny Bernstein into the final round of the Southern Nationals. He'll face off with Gene Snow, and Bernstein will have the lane choice. Maybe not a big advantage. They appear to be quite equal. Stay with us. Pro Stock Final 4 next. You can see the Pro Stock Final 4 just now filing under the magnificent new tower here in Atlanta. They're ready to race. Not so the funny cars. They're getting ready for the final. We're in the pits of Dill Worship. A lot of his crew, volunteers, and they all got to be thinking to themselves, how is our little budget hot rod going to compete with Mark Oswald's 521? Well, speaking of Oswald, Don Garlitz is over in that pit area.
Well, Steve, right next door here in the Oswald pit, things are a little different. Very routine. They didn't hurt anything. Low ET of the meet, 521. Bill, what do we got to say about that?
Well, of course, we're very pleased with that, making that run against one of the real competitors, John Force. But we felt we could do it all day if we could get the engine running even, and we had the capability to put the clutch where we wanted. So we got a chance where we had to take a chance, and we did. I'm very pleased with the results.
I'll say you ought to be. That's like chipping the golf ball in from about 100 yards out, while John Force was 3-putting. Don Garlitz said earlier that Bob Glidden is furious about not having won this year, and that figures when you've won 79 times, you get kind of used to it. Well, Jerry Ekman would like to prevent that from happening here at Atlanta Dragway. Pre-stage. Hey, neither wanted to stage first, but finally they're in. Glidden left first and arrived 1,320 feet later at the finish line first. While his kids go bananas, a 7:30, 188 to Ekman's losing 7:35 at 185. And now the race we have all been waiting for. Don Garlitz, myself, everybody in our TV truck, everybody in the grandstands and the VIP suites.
Warren Johnson and Darrell Alderman, the only 2 Pro Stock winners this entire year. We're on board with Darrell Alderman. But meanwhile, let's go down to the far end. Steve is with Bob.
Well, all Jerry Ekman saw was red, as in the color of this Ford Probe. A 730 put him away, Bob.
It's about time we won a couple rounds, Steve. It's been a long, long haul this year. You know, Jerry did a good job getting here, but I think we were both lucky we weren't in the other bracket.
You wanted to stage last, and you did.
No, I think Jerry's gone to a different clutch setup, and he, kind of like Frank Iaconio, runs up and puts both lights on. I really don't care if I stage first or last. I can be late both ways.
Good luck in the final.
Thanks.
Boy, you can tell Bob Glidden has been working hard this year.
You know, let me take just a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $45 per year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, pen, rule book, and more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get a free copy of Diamond P's home video, Drag Racing 90. Call today.
Well, the classic Pro Stock race is at hand. Alderman versus Johnson.
And Alderman has the lane he wants. There's a little bump in that left-hand or near lane. He didn't want it at all. Let's see what happens. Oh, what a beauty. You can tell by which crew is jumping up and down who won. Warren Johnson, 726 to a losing, if you can call it losing, 727. Johnson, 189. Alderman, 188.
Johnson did what he had to do. He cut a 430 light and took a starting line advantage over Darrell Alderman. Plus, he ran better. So he pulled a couple of tricks out of the hat, just like we figured he would do. That gave him the win over the Mopar, which was very important, just like he did at Gainesville at the Gator Nationals. So that sets up our final pairing in Pro Stock. It will be Bob Glidden versus Warren Johnson, and Johnson has the lane choice.
Well, you know, Darrell told me earlier he was a little worried about you maybe hole-shotting him again. Instead, you just flat out ran him, 26 to a 27.
Oh, perfect. I don't know about the hole shot. All I know is we won, and that's all that counts.
So far, this two-car effort is working very well for you, better even than you thought it might.
Yeah, knowledge is power in this game, and the more you know, the better off you are.
The more runs you make, the more you know.
That's exactly right, Steve.
Final round bound, Warren Johnson.
In fact, it will be the final rounds right after this.
Remain in competition. They are all the finalists. And of course, you're looking at Mark Oswald, the in-and-out hamburger car, who has low elapsed time at 5.21. They have all the assets. Some great car owners, a tremendous crew chief in Bill Schultz. Their competition, Dale Worsham, well, he doesn't have all of that stuff. And earlier, as they were preparing the Worsham car, I kind of wandered over there to see what kind of personality the crew has and to find out more about this young man. Just turned 21 years old. Dale Worsham doesn't just drive this funny car. He is this funny car. When all of these volunteer crew people and his dad, Chuck Worsham, have disappeared, he will clean up this mess. He'll load up their little trailer. He'll drive it to the next race. He'll park at an inexpensive motel parking lot, or better yet, a friend's driveway where he can take the spare room. He'll get this car ready to race again. They run that lean and that mean. They desperately need to win here. The prize money could keep them on the road maybe for the rest of the year. They eat that many hamburgers. Not cheeseburgers, hamburgers. And we would be remiss, Don Garlitz, if we didn't mention a businessman watching this out in California, Ron Tadoran, who's provided enough financial support to get him to this point. All right, low ET in the far round. Mark Oswald appears to have a tremendous advantage over the kid. Let's see what happens. Oswald smokes the tires, gets back after the throttle, and can't catch him. Dale Worsham has won the Southern Nationals. And every kid in the grandstands who has dreamed the dream is on the feet applauding their effort. Incredible.
What a tremendous upset. But the 521 low ET in the previous round was obvious, too close to the edge of what the track could hold, and they didn't take enough clutch out of that Oswald car. And there you see it, smoking the tires. Dale Worsham took a slight starting line advantage. They didn't hop the car up. They ran their straight 550. That's all it took to get down to the end of the racetrack. But with the smoking tires on Oswald's car, they only mustered a 574. That wasn't good enough to do it. Dale Worsham was clearly the Southern Nationals winner. Meanwhile, Steve is with him.
Dale Worsham has become the youngest driver to ever win a funny car title in the National Hot Rod Association.
Oh, it is unbelievable. This is the greatest day of my life right now.
You were good on the starting line. You anticipated the light nicely. Everything went well for you.
That's great. You know, before the run, Forrest came up and says, he can't do it again. Do what you're doing. This one's yours.
Well, yeah, Forrest wanted you to beat him. Tell me about the run. When did you think, I've won this thing?
We just left the line, and I could see him for a second, and we were not very far, and he disappeared, and he wasn't coming by, and I said, oh, it's over. It's ours.
Well, this prize money has found a good home. I know that. You guys run pretty lean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is really going to help us out. We're getting down. We got a new body being mounted, and that's really taking up a lot of our money right now.
Maybe you can order some cheese on your hamburgers from now on.
Oh, for sure.
What a neat young guy.
A win like that certainly gives incentive to the other young drivers. The Winston points are shaping up like this. John Force has a very commanding lead. Mark Oswald gained a few hundred points with that runner-up finish. Ed McCullough is in third.
And Don, down here at the far end, there's no victory celebration like the first one. The Worsham family and friends savoring the moment. Stay with us. We'll be back with the finals in Pro Stock and in Top Fuel. Kenny Bernstein coming into the lanes, followed by Gene Snow in the Mopar Special. That'll be his competition. But first up, we're going to see the final in Pro Stock. And don't you know, the fans will be rooting for Warren Johnson, who lives just down the road. But Glidden, I'm sure, will have his fair share of supporters. Few drivers more popular in motorsports than the man that drives the Motorcraft Pro.
I don't think there's two fiercer competitors in Pro Stock than Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson. These two guys, not only do they love to race, but they love to beat the other guy.
That's right, and I don't think any two teams put in more hours than the Glidden family and the Johnson family. The wives involved, the in-laws involved, you name it. Everybody lives and breathes drag racing. Glidden really comes in as an underdog here. Let's face it, Warren Johnson has about a 0.04 of a second advantage on paper, and that's a country mile in Pro Stock racing. Let's see if they play any games. Both of them pre-stage. That's the top yellow light. Both moving very slowly forward. Glidden is the last to stage. Oh, what a disaster for Warren Johnson. He has red-lighted, foul started. He is out of here. Rusty Glidden goes bananas. The first win of the year for family Glidden. The boys just saw it at practice. They missed their high five, and the lenses exploded out of Billy Glidden's glasses. Good grief. Warren Johnson, he just sliced his own throat. Unbelievable.
Well, the way I see it, Warren Johnson was so excited from beating Darrell Alderman in the previous round. He just totally misjudged the light. And Glidden, he was ever so cool. He was sitting over there. He took a 4:75 reaction time, which was very good. But Warren Johnson should have had Bob covered. It just didn't happen today.
Was that you I saw applauding inside your race car?
That was me, Steve. I'll tell you, miracles do happen every now and then.
Could you have handled him without the red light?
No, I don't think so. We had tried some off-the-wall stuff, some parts that we'd run last year at Reading that we'd run pretty good with. Just taking a chance because we figured Warren had been doing such a good job that we'd have to beat him to win the race. And I got a little bit crossed up. If he hadn't red lighted, I'd have stayed on it, but I don't know what kind of a run I would have made.
Losing just eats you up, doesn't it?
Well, you know, we all win some if we're lucky enough, and everyone loses. We've certainly been in a drought. Losing's not as bad as our performance has been. Starting the year out, we ran, worse than we ran 3 years ago, and I don't think there's any excuse for that.
Well, it certainly isn't because you're not all working hard. We know that.
No, we worked hard to get that far behind.
Congratulations. Great job. AC-Delco Southern Nationals champ, Bob Glidden.
Well, Glidden very humble in his win, but he does work hard. We all know that. The Pro Stock Winston points look like this. Darrell Alderman still with a very commanding lead. Warren Johnson second, Jerry Eggman third, Bob Glidden a distant fourth.
And it's time for the final pair of the day. Who will be the Top Fuel champion? Will it be Kenny Bernstein right there in the Budweiser King? Will it be Gene Snow in the Mopar Special? As I look at these long, sleek race cars, I'm reminded of a quote I read in Car and Driver magazine recently, Don. It said the Top Fuel car is related to the passenger car as the mouse is to the kangaroo. It was just a long, long time ago. There's not a single part of one of these cars you'd find on anything out of Detroit, just as if there's no model airplane parts on the space shuttle. These are the ultimate acceleration vehicles.
Well, this is the second time these two cars have met in the final, and I'll bet Gene wants to pay Bernstein back for that loss at the Super Nationals.
Ooh, but he's not going to collect here. First of all, a wheel stand, then an engine explosion. Kenny Bernstein, the Southern Nationals champion at 5:04.282. He has now won 3 out of 5 races. That is not good news for the likes of Joe Amato, Don Prudhomme, and Gary Ormsby.
Yes, Joe Amato is going to have to do some running to catch up. As we watch this replay, we see that Gene Snow took a slight starting line advantage, but the wheels start up on the car. He backpedals it, the engine hydraulics, and that's all for Gene for the day. He should have put more weight on the front end, or maybe he took some off. Who knows? Anyway, it was a win for Kenny Bernstein.
This is going to sound like a line from the Kenny Bernstein funny car years. Kenny, you have just won the 3rd of 5 races this year.
Oh, man, that's just great. It really is. And, you know, I say it, but Dale Armstrong and the crew every time. It's them. They make it happen. Of course, Budweiser, Quake State, Mac Tools, we need them too. But for the fans, that's what we like.
Not a bad batting average, 3 out of 5.
Not bad at all, but there's so much tough competition out there, and it's, you know, there's, what, 13 more to go? It'll get really tough before it's over with because those guys are just good.
And you see the pressure of this tight competition, Amato red lighting, for instance.
Well, it is pressure. I mean, when you've got 8 or 10 cars capable of running right next to each other all day long, you got to be on your toes up there. I read it last week at Rockingham. I mean, it can happen to any of us, and it's tough. It's a lot of pressure.
When you get 7 cars qualified into the 4s, it tells you you've really got to put your best foot forward every time.
Well, you do that, and at this particular race, the Winston, the people, they got their money's worth, so at NHRA, it was great. 7 out of the 16 cars in the 4s, that's pretty tough.
Great job.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody.
Well, my money's on Kenny Bernstein. He stays cool under pressure, and he's got a good lead. Joe Amato is not too far behind in 2nd, and Don Prudhomme is 3rd. Frank Bradley, a distant 4th.
Terrific racing here in Atlanta. We hope you enjoyed it. For Big Daddy Don Garlitz, I'm Steve Evans. Thanks for joining us here on ESPN. The 1991 NHRA AC-Delco Southern Nationals has been brought to you by AC-Delco Automotive Parts. AC-Delco, it's like buying time. By Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Coverage of the NHRA Southern Nationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports in association with ESPN.